infrastructure bill, on the other hand, you've seen Senator Cornyn say, you know what, we will do $700–800 billion of pure infrastructure if you will focus it, focus it more directly. Now, the latest thing is that there are some birdbath concerns about a lot of things that are in the $2 trillion that just by definition probably aren't going to pass muster. So even if you do it through reconciliation, you're going to miss out on a lot of things. Will that make you and your colleagues more inclined to maybe work with Republicans on a smaller bill?
This is not a time for a small half-measure kind of approach that the Republicans like to focus on. $600 billion versus $2.5 trillion, that is a huge gap. This is a time for us to think big, move large, because we need to get our economy back on track. We need to create jobs for people. I realize that certain segments of our economy are doing fine. Wall Street and others are doing fine. The tech industry is doing fine during this pandemic, but there are millions of people still out of work. And this is a bill that would get our economy back on track. And by the way, our thinking, the Republican thinking about infrastructure is really limited. They don't even consider removing lead pipes to be part of infrastructure, and of course it is.
Well, there's probably somewhere between $600 billion and $2.5 trillion where you could address a lot of infrastructure, a lot of much-needed infrastructure, and maybe some of the things that it's been expanded to, you wouldn't get there. I guess my real question, Senator, is there any chance this is not done under reconciliation? Is there any chance that the two parties are able to decide on something? Because there was hope at the beginning of the administration that there were going to be signals sent out that President Biden would do things that way on a more bipartisan. I guess you'll blame it on Republicans, but if it's reconciliation, that certainly isn't bipartisan.
But it also means that we actually get things done for the American people. And that's what the Democrats are focused on. When you have not a single Republican voting for the rescue bill, that gives you an idea of where they're coming from. And they're not coming from a place that says we should be helping the vast majority of people in our country. They're very focused on helping Wall Street. Good for Wall Street, good for corporations, but it's not good for the rest of our economy. Even Jamie Dimon has said when we don't pay attention to providing resources for hard-hit communities, economically distressed communities, that is not going to help our overall, the health of our country. And coming from Jamie Dimon, I think we should all listen.
It's not just Republicans. You might have trouble paying for it with a 28% corporate tax because of a Democrat, or maybe a couple Democrats, Senator Manchin. Do you think that would you support, and do you think that there will be a compromise on that part of the legislation, the 28, maybe do 25? Corporate tax.
There could be, because there's no question that the corporations benefited hugely from the tax cuts that the Republicans handed to them without a single Democrat voting for it. And so we're in a situation where everybody should be paying their fair taxes and the corporations are not. So if we're going to argue about the amount of the increase for corporate taxes, maybe there's a compromise there. But of course, where I am is that we should raise the corporate taxes to 28%. Mm-hmm. Then there might be compromise there, but there are other issues that have to do with tax overhaul. I mean, ending the tax breaks for fossil fuels. My goodness, that should have been done years ago, to close tax havens for corporations.
Senator,
there are a number of other things.
When you say that the tax cuts benefited corporations greatly, that almost sounds like you're saying that in a negative way. Can you explain why it's bad when I don't know whether you just think a corporation means the CEO or means, like a corporation, I think, includes shareholders, it includes employees, it includes, being able to invest in research and development and to expand and to compete globally, and all these things that work to make the private sector the economic generator of all the tax dollars that we're using. Why is it a bad thing that corporations benefited from that bill?
When that bill was passed without any input from Democrats, that was supposed to be it was kind of like a trickle down situation. They were supposed to create jobs, et cetera. They were supposed to increase massively the pay for CEOs, et cetera. So there's all kinds of evidence that says that the 1.5 trillion in tax breaks for the 1% of the richest corporations and people in our country certainly did not trickle down to create good paying jobs for people. It was mainly benefiting corporations, and so they are not paying their fair share in taxes. You have some corporations that pay zero taxes. That is totally unfair, to say the least.
All right.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.